Hello and welcome. I am so glad you're here today. We are starting a journey to understand how AI systems like ChatGPT really work from the inside. And, before we get into anything else, let's just make one thing completely clear right off the bat. You absolutely do not need a technical background to understand this explainer. Seriously, if you know how to send a message on WhatsApp or watch a video on YouTube or search for something on Google, you already have literally all the skills you need to follow along. By the end of our time together today, you are going to understand exactly what happens behind the scenes of modern AI. So let's begin.
Every single day, millions of people open up ChatGPT, type a question, and get this magical answer back in just a few seconds. But have you ever wondered how ChatGPT actually thinks? What is really happening in that exact moment right after you hit enter? Is it like quickly searching Google for the answer? Is it thinking about the problem exactly like a human would? Or is it just memorizing every single page on the internet and pasting it back to you? Well, the truth is, it's actually none of those things. It's something completely different and honestly, incredibly fascinating.
Section 1. The restaurant analogy. Okay, let's dive into this. To really grasp this, we don't need any complex computer code. We just need a simple story. I want you to imagine that you're walking into your absolute favorite restaurant. You take a seat, you look at the menu, and you're ready to eat. Now, in this analogy, you are the customer, ChatGPT is the chef in the kitchen, and the question you type into your computer is your food order. It really is just that simple.
Let's walk through what happens when you order. You call the waiter over and say, "Hey, I want a spicy burger with extra cheese." Now, you obviously don't see what happens next, but a whole system springs into action. The waiter takes your order to the kitchen, the chef receives it, they start prepping the food, they pull ingredients from the storage pantry, and finally, your delicious meal is served right to your table. Well, behind the scenes, ChatGPT does this exact same thing. But instead of taking a food order and generating a meal, it takes your question and it generates text.
Step 1. Prepping the ingredients. Let's look at the very first step of this recipe. What is really happening when you type a question? Let's say you sit down at your computer and ask, "What is AI?" At this very moment, the system does not read that sentence and ponder it like a human being would. It doesn't have a brain that understands English the way you and I do. Instead, it does something much simpler. It's actually a lot like a chef prepping ingredients on a cutting board.
Our AI chef basically takes your sentence and chops it up. It breaks a phrase like artificial intelligence down into really small structural building blocks. At this stage, the AI isn't even worrying about what the words actually mean. It is purely looking at the structure. It's exactly like a chef chopping onions and tomatoes before deciding what dish to cook. It's just prepping the raw materials.
Now, this chopping process actually has a specific name in the AI world. It is called tokenization. Let that sink in for a second. Tokenization. It simply means breaking words down into smaller pieces, or tokens. So your sentence is now just a neat little pile of tokens completely ready to be cooked.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how we move from those chopped up words to actual understanding. You see, computers are basically just giant calculators, right? They don't understand letters or language at all. They literally only understand numbers. So to make sense of your order, the system has to translate those word tokens into a set of numerical patterns. Your order literally becomes a mathematical map.
In this translation process, it is called embeddings. Embeddings. Again, don't worry too much about the technical jargon here, but just know that embeddings are how the computer converts your words into meaning signals that it can actually process. It turns our human language into a numerical language that the machine's brain can actually read. Step 2. Understanding context. Okay, so now our chef has all the ingredients prepped and translated into a language it understands. The next step is figuring out what you, the customer, actually want. The chef looks at your order and has to figure out the context. It doesn't just look at one single word in isolation. It looks at the full sentence and the overall meaning behind the whole thing.
Let's see exactly how it builds that context. Look at these three phrases here. What is AI? Explain artificial intelligence, and tell me about machines that think. Now, to a human, these obviously mean the exact same thing. But amazingly, to ChatGPT, they also mean the exact same thing. And that is all because of those number-based meaning signals we just talked about. The system recognizes the underlying patterns, which it has learned from reading massive amounts of data. It just knows the context.
Step 3. The brain of ChatGPT. So who exactly is this genius chef running our kitchen? Let's introduce the core system. You can basically think of it as a brilliantly smart, highly experienced assistant running the entire restaurant's kitchen.
This smart kitchen assistant takes your translated, contextualized order and checks its vast past experience. But here is the big secret. It doesn't have a recipe book of fixed, memorized answers that it just pulls off a dusty shelf. It doesn't say, question 42, let me grab answer 42. Instead, it reads the order and dynamically predicts what the best possible response should be, based on all the data it has ever seen in its entire life.
And the technical name for this incredibly smart kitchen assistant is a transformer model. A transformer model. This is the core predictive engine that powers the entire system. It's the brains of the operation that looks at the patterns and decides what comes next. Step 4, the magic trick. So the crucial point here is how this transformer model actually serves your meal. Remember how I said it doesn't just pull a pre-written answer off a shelf? It actually generates the text right in front of you. But it never writes the full answer all at once. No, it performs a truly fascinating trick.
It serves your meal one single bite at a time. This process is called next word prediction. It looks at your question and asks, based on my experience, what is the most likely first word? And it outputs artificial. Then it looks at the sentence so far and asks, okay, what is the most likely next word? It outputs intelligence, then is, then a. Literally one word at a time, predicting the next logical piece of the puzzle. There is absolutely no magic happening here at all. It is just highly advanced prediction.
Section 5. The truth about ChatGPT. Let's take a step back and just look at the whole journey we just took through the restaurant. You placed your order. The chef broke it down using tokenization, understood the meaning using embeddings, used its vast training experience via the transformer model, and predicted the final dish for you step by step using next word prediction. That, in a nutshell, is ChatGPT.
And this brilliantly illustrates a very important truth. It shows us what ChatGPT does not do. It does not always search Google in real time to find an answer. It absolutely does not think like a human being, and it doesn't actually know facts the way you or I do. It is merely generating highly likely, highly probable responses based on the massive, massive patterns of data it learned during its training. If you want a really great way to picture this in real life, just imagine you are texting a friend who happens to have read millions and millions of books. When you text them a question, they don't have a perfectly memorized, fixed answer ready to go. Instead, they just try to guess the most likely, most accurate explanation based on everything they've ever read in their entire life. That is exactly how ChatGPT behaves.
So why does understanding this restaurant analogy and this prediction engine actually matter? Well, because this basic foundation explains everything else about AI. Literally everything. Every advanced topic we're going to cover in the future, how AI connects to external tools, how AI agents work, and why the whole thing is structured the way it is, builds entirely on this foundational idea of predicting the next word based on patterns.
But this leaves us with a massive, absolutely fascinating mystery. Because it's just predicting words based on patterns, it isn't perfect. Which brings us to the exact question we will explore in our next explainer. If ChatGPT doesn't really know facts like humans, then why does it sometimes give wrong answers confidently? We will discover the answer to that soon. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll see you next time.